By the time I hit my 50s, I'd learned a few things, like how family is precious. Work can always wait. And 99% of people over 50 already have the virus that causes shingles. Not everyone at risk will develop it, but I did. The painful, blistering rash disrupted my life for weeks. Don't learn about your shingles risk the hard way. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist today. Sponsored by GSK.
I'm not giving up.
I am selling the building.
The final season of FX's The Bear.
The restaurant is flooded.
Everything's either going to be okay.
No, stop.
Or not.
We are outgunned and we are outmanned, but we have each other.
FX's The Bear, the final season. All episodes now streaming on Disney+.
This episode is brought to you by ChatGPT. Hey, it's Bill Simmons from the Bill Simmons Podcast. Have you guys heard about ChatGPT work? It's the new way to use ChatGPT for bigger multi-step projects. And when you need more than just answers, give ChatGPT work access to your apps and files, and it can create real work documents like spreadsheets, slides, and structured reports. Get started at chatgpt.com by selecting work mode, available on Plus and Pro plans.
What's happening, everyone? What's going on? How you doing? It's Jay Scott. It is the Hook Rocks, the ultimate rock community podcast. Thanks again for tuning in. I always appreciate when you do. Please don't forget to leave us a review when you're done listening. We always appreciate the feedback. We are part of the Pantheon Podcast Network, a great network of music-related podcasts, just like the official Metallica podcast, the Metallica Report. Check that out and all the other hosts and great shows on pantheonpodcast.com, and check them out on social media at Pantheon Pods, on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and Facebook. And you can do the same with the Hook Rocks. Just search up the Hook Rocks and our website, thehookrocks.com. Please don't forget to set your app to automatic download so you get the latest episode right to your phone. We've had some awesome guests this year. Just recently, we celebrated our 600th episode with Paul Jackson of Blackberry Smoke. We have Michael Anthony, the ex-bassist from Van Halen, Richie Kotzen, John Corabi, Joe Hottinger from Hailstorm, and also Dave Snake Sabo, who just stopped by to talk with us about Lizzie Hale performing with Skid Row over the last half dozen shows or so. And then also check out the one we released over the weekend, which is with Jenny Scolander from the band Devilskin, all the way out there in New Zealand. So we've had some great shows, and we've got another one lined up for you today, all the way from Big Sky, Montana. It is Tim, Montana. What's happening, man? How are you?
Hey, man, how are you? We're in Wise River, Montana, Big Sky country, but Big Sky is actually a town, so I didn't want to get people confused because that's where all the extremely wealthy people live. So I'm not in Big Sky, Montana. However, I'm in Big Sky country.
As well, I've always just heard of Montana just being called Big Sky, Big Sky country. So maybe that's where it comes from.
Yeah, it's Big Sky country, but Big Sky is literally where the helicopters and private jets land. And I'm like, hey, we're not there yet. That's where all the celebs of the Yellowstone Club, and yeah, that's the ritzy. That's our Aspen, Colorado, is Big Sky, Montana. So yeah, we're in the Big Hole Valley today, and a little town, 44 people, called Wise River. And I just got off tour, so there is not a better place on earth to unplug and cleanse your soul than floating a river in Montana.
Was it Robert Frost, I think, who called Montana the jewel of the United States? I think it was.
Yeah, and there's some really interesting, Steinbeck quotes about Montana. Like, he flipped out over this place, too. Yeah, it's a special place, man. It's magical. And we wrote about half of the album Savage up here, and it was a cabin I had leased, and my producer and co-writer flies in today, and we're going to write again, but I don't have the lease on the cabin. So I called the new guy that has the cabin, and I said, dude, I need that cabin back this week. We got to keep writing songs, and there's magic in there. So we actually leased that same cabin on the river to start writing music all week. So
nice. Well, we're going to get into a lot, but we always start the same way every time we have a first-time guest on the show, and that is really the essence of what we're all about here. Just like every great rock song has a hook that pulls you in, every rock fan has a moment, whether it's a song, an album, a band, or performance that hooked them on rock and roll. What was it for you?
Defining moment for me with rock and roll was my mom and former stepdad owned a pawn shop in northern Montana. And under their bed, they had an old thing of cassette tapes because they had a lot of old cars. I'm not that old. There were CDs when I was a kid, let's clarify. But I found a cassette tape, and on one side it had Mr. Brownstone, and on one side it had Welcome to the Jungle. And I can remember the exact feeling and goosebumps I got when I heard the intro to Welcome to the Jungle at 5 years old, and the noises that Axl Rose made from Guns N' Roses. And I can remember that exact moment where I was like, I want to do that. And my mom said I never put down spoons. I was singing into spoons, banging on pots and pans, and ultimately after that, they bought me a guitar about a year later. So,
what was it about Welcome to the Jungle that just captured you?
I don't know. I think it was that just ferociousness. I'd never heard anything like that, and I was at such a young, impressionable age, and just that little guitar intro that slashed it, of course, and the sirens and the chaos and just something about that. And then I flipped the other side and found Mr. Brownstone, and I didn't know if Mr. Brownstone was a school bus driver at that age that they were mad at. I couldn't figure it out, but later on I was like, oh, that was a reference to something else.
I remember when Welcome to the Jungle world premiered on Headbangers Ball, and it was like 1 a.m, and it fell flat. Like, it didn't do anything. Like, the first initial release of it, like, didn't resonate with anybody, didn't connect with the young audience. And then they re-released it like 8 months later or 6 months later, whatever it was. And then that's when it blew up. But when it initially was released, I remember watching this video because they always used to put like stuff that they weren't, MTV used to put stuff out like they weren't really sure about, like later in the hours on Headbangers Ball. And that's when Welcome to the Jungle landed. And I remember listening to it and I was like, oh, that's all right. But it never went anywhere. And then all of a sudden, 8 months later, becomes this huge song. And then Sweet Child of Mine, Paradise City, it became a huge record. But yeah, it was kind of weird how that song didn't do much. And then it took off like months later.
Wow. I did not know that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then the rest is history with the band, right? I mean, they just, became larger than life. What was it? What was the next step for you after the Guns N' Roses? Where'd it go from there?
I got a guitar about that same time we moved off grid. We had electricity at the time I got that tape, and we lived above a pawn shop. Excuse me. So I got a nylon string guitar and was told the TV's going off. We're going to have lanterns, candles, move real remote back into the wilderness. And we did. We moved way back in the wilderness, and I got a Sony CD player that took size D batteries, and I do chores to get batteries for my CD player so that I can listen to music. And my mom is still to this day the most religious person on planet Earth, right? But she'd bring me these tapes and CDs that wouldn't sell at the pawn shop, and she had no idea what she was giving me. And so then she brought Use Your Illusion home. I think you like this band. I remember that there's like a shit talk song where they yell about get in the ring and I'll kick your bitchy little ass and all this stuff. And I remember I was like 6 or 7 years old going, I can't believe my mom brought me that. And then in that stack was a ZZ Top CD. And then in that stack was Tool Undertow. And my mom accidentally, not knowing it, fed me all this rock and roll without knowing that she was doing it. It was wild. And she had a heart attack because she did hear me on the porch listening to that, whatever that track is. I don't even know what it's called, where Axl Rose is screaming out at all that.
Get in the Ring, right?
It is. It's Get in the Ring. My mom busted me listening to Get in the Ring and freaked out and broke the CD and was like, where did you get this? I'm like, you gave it to me. Apparently she missed the parental advisory one on that CD.
You mentioned like living off the grid. What was that like with like your musical journey? I mean, imagine, when you're doing that, you don't really have a lot going on in terms of just TV and a lot of distractions, I should say. So was that kind of like a blessing in disguise of like just focusing on music?
At the time, I thought it was terrible, but then I realized that now I look back, I'm like, had I not had those years with no TV, no distractions, I wouldn't have honed my craft the way I did, right? It was all I had at that young of an age. So I just had a guitar and songs I would write, and it was work, work, work all day. And the minute the sun went down, I could go in my room and light a lantern and play guitar. And that's because it's all I had. I can't imagine a world, because I have pretty bad ADD. And I'm like, thank God I didn't have television or a cell phone, because I would not have worked on my craft. My daughter is a great example. She's a fantastic musician, has great pitch and piano, but she's distracted with her phone all the time. And I'm like sitting there looking at her like, you're so good. You have the same bug that I had, but you have access to the world on a cell phone. I'm like, we need to move to a cabin in the woods and shut the lights off immediately. Let these kids hone their craft.
That's true, because I've talked about on this show my son, because my son plays guitar. And I'm so happy that he does, because even though he's on the phone, like most teenagers are, most kids are, he does spend a lot of time practicing. He does spend a lot of time. So I do feel like there is a little bit of an even trade-off. Like he's not completely buried in it like some kids are, but I like the fact that he understands the value of practicing and doing all these things. And it's kind of refreshing when young kids do that this day and age, because there are so many different distractions.
Yeah, it takes extreme discipline for a modern kid to play an instrument. And I think, I don't know, you see some people out there on YouTube and TikTok that are like absolute shredders, and we all watch those little kids playing the drums and guitars, but that is so rare. And I worry that music in the next 20 years is going to be hurt by that, because everybody's just on their cell phone and not developing their skills and learning. And I think it's going to be across the board, from tradesmen to musicians. I mean, just we haven't seen the repercussions yet of this generation addicted to a cell phone. And again, I'm no different than anyone else as a parent and as an adult. I'm on my phone all the time, but I think the world's going to suffer from that. It's like the greatest thing to ever happen. But then I think 20 years down the road, we're going to be like, why'd that house fall in? Why does this music suck?
Well, I think on the music part it's already happening, because I think, and in my opinion, I think it started with these shows on TV like The Voice or like American Idol, where kids show up in this hotel to audition for it, and then they get picked on the show, and that's what they think becoming an artist is, becoming into the music business. Where, for rock and roll especially, I'd like to think it's still like this. There's the garage practice, there's the basement practice. You're just always playing, and you're driving around in this beat up van going from show to show, and it's a lot of like things that are not glamorous about this stuff. And I think shows like that, and then how that correlates with the phone and these Instagram or whatever influencers is, they play, but there's a difference between sitting in front of the phone recording to being on stage in front of hundreds and thousands of people.
Right. And the grind that it takes to get there, like the grind, and I can speak more than most people in the music business about the grind, because I've been grinding a long time. A lot of sparks, man. And yeah, just that work ethic, the grind it takes to build something that's real, and the brick foundation. And everybody thinks is, again, you're going to go on a TV show and hit it. And a few people have, but yeah, we're kind of in this era where people learn to play the laptop before they do their instrument. And I think it reflects in the music. And, turn on the radio sometimes and you're like, it'd be really cool if there was a guitar in here.
Yeah. What happened to the guitar? It's,
Yeah. Well, that's what we really leaned into with my Savage album, is like, we wanted heavy guitars. And, and even when I asked my producer about like, hey, should we hire a session guy? Because that's kind of the norm to do, is to hire session players, especially the Nashville norm. And he was so great at saying, dude, you play guitar. Can you imagine if a session player would have played Smells Like Teen Spirit instead of Kurt? Do you think that song would have sounded the same? And he's like, Kurt's imperfections made it perfect. And I was like, you're right. So him and I played all the guitar on the whole record. And those little imperfections are style, So yeah.
Well, I also think it's a little bit of a rock and roll too, is because I think one of the things that, as we talk about technology, that has kind of filtered into this genre is the perfection sound, like the perfect sound. And I think when you think of Guns N' Roses and you think of bands, like Led Zeppelin and every other great rock and roll band, they have so many imperfections, but that's part of the sound. That's part of the attitude of rock and roll. And I think, technology does a lot of great things, but it also, I think, makes it too easy to sound too good. And I think how that translates when you go to a live show is, I think audience, especially in the younger generation, are kind of like, expecting perfection when
they are. It's a real thing.
Yeah.
It's a real thing. And there's there's a few gritty, dirty rock and roll bands out there. And I've actually had at length discussions with Dave Grohl about this, about the Foo Fighters. And he gave me the best advice one day backstage. He's like, man, do you know why the Foo Fighters, we connect so well? And I was like, why? And he's like, because we're real. And if we train wreck on stage, I stop the band, I make a joke about it, and we start the song again. And he goes, that human connection of, again, imperfections that make it perfect. And so, hearing that from one of my heroes is like really interesting to process that. He told me that about 3 or 4 years ago. And he's like, yeah, man, he's like, that's what makes it dirty and greasy. And it's like these new kids are running laptops up there, and it's wild. So.
Yeah, I think that's where the art comes from, is the imperfection, the authenticity, the improvising, all that stuff. That's the art. That's the true art of the genre. That's the true art of music. Anyone can go in the studio and make it sound like however they want to sound and manipulate it and do whatever they need to do. But when you get on stage and you prove to the crowd that you can play, and it's not coming through a modulator, it's coming through an amp, it's coming through all this stuff, that's when I think the art is really at its best.
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree with you more on that.
When you think about this album and you think about the recording of it, what was your vision when you started?
The Devil started popping, and I was the guy, everyone's like, country or rock. If you go back, like, I did a record, Tim Montana and the Shrednecks, that's like a gritty ass, nasty rock record. And I didn't have a good budget, so it's not, anything extraordinary. But I've been doing that stuff for a while, and the Devil started popping, and I was just so burned out of the Nashville scene that at that time when I turned that song in, I was moving out. I couldn't do it anymore. I'm like, I can't be in this town anymore. And again, it's not the town, it was just kind of the scene. And I learned a lot from songwriters there, but the music scene was just not clicking with me. I always felt like an alien, they never really let me in. They're like, you're too loud, you cuss too much, you're this and that. So we did Devil that started popping at radio. And we're just like, let's lean into the rock thing, because that's what I grew up listening to, was Nirvana and Alice in Chains and ZZ Top and Guns N' Roses, and that was my thing. And the country I listened to was outlaw country, Waylon Willie, Charlie Daniels, which in a lot of ways, those guys rock pretty hard, dude. That outlaw movement, that was like rock and roll, what they did. And so we just leaned in hard in this rock space. And, there's definitely a lot of apocalypto vibes in there. I mean, I was looking around and I'm like, the great thing about rock is you can say what you want. And I think the world is a very dark place right now. And I think there's a lot of violence and horrible things happening. And if you listen to Savage, I'm even talking about the greed of mankind and living in towers, chasing the power. We want it all. I can use those metaphors to describe what I see happening in the world right now. And we touched on that point a lot during the record. So we just went hard. We rocked. We said what I wanted to say. And I feel like it's reflected on that. And some of my most proud work that I've ever done is on that record.
Where'd the title of the album Savage come from?
We wrote the song Savage, and I just fell in love with it. Just hit top 20 this weekend, by the way, which is absolutely insanity to me. And just fell in love with the concept, and it just, the rest of the record kind of had a theme that chased that or around that. And we're like, what a great name. And then, we did the imagery up here. I think before we landed on the album name, we did the imagery up here, and it was snowing and it was cold, and I got in the river, and it was very savage, the photos that we took, and bringing the photographer to the top of this snow covered mountain in a Polaris And I had one of my record label girls out here too, and she's like, "Oh my God, if we get killed up here," and I'm like, "Everything is savage, ain't it?" So we just kept saying, "Everything is savage, everything is savage," and and so that just turned out to be a really good theme for the name of the record. So.
Listening to the music, what I find incredible about it is it's rock and roll, it's hard rock, it's all those things. I love the eerie melodies in the songs. Like it's got like this captivating melody that in ways like if you shut your eyes and just listen, it kind of has like this like an eeriness to it, which I think is really cool. It kind of is a little bit different texture than most rock songs and most rock albums.
Yeah, we definitely leaned into that, chased that. And we, again, writing for 17 years in Nashville, my time there was not in vain because I learned how to write a song and I wrote with the best and I got my ass kicked and I'd take something away from that. And the songwriting community in Nashville is the best in the world. And I'll stand by that. Again, don't love the music scene, the songwriter scene, second to none. Those dudes can write songs. And that's where I learned about melody stuff. But I, was trying to plug that into this country rock thing I was doing. And then when I plugged it in with these heavy guitars, I'm like, that's where it fits. That's where this stuff fits. These melodies that I get in my head and all that. It just works really well in this space. And yeah, so thanks for noticing that because I love my eerie melodies. They're right up here right now.
That's what I think drew me in listening to it was listening to, I'm like, okay, what's Tim got? And I'm like, listen, I like just the way it feels like a windy fall night in a dark town with like no lights. It kind of feels
right.
that. I really dig that.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
What recording this album, coming from where you come from and with the country background, the outlaw country background, which by the way, in my opinion, outlaw country has a lot of rock and roll elements, especially the attitude in it. And that's why I've always been attracted to that part of country too, as well. There's some really good stuff and some cool attitude. It's all attitude, which is great, and feel as well.
Right.
But coming from that, in Nashville and learning how to write a song and kind of putting it and implementing it into this music, when did that like transition kind of happen? Going out there, doing what you were doing and then learning how to write all this music. When did you really start to hone in on your skill?
Would you say in the rock space or just in general?
As an artist in general?
I don't know. I mean, as a songwriter, I wrote 2 songs on Kid Rock's Sweet Southern Sugar, Travis Tritt, Michael Ray, Lee Brice, Kid Rock, Billy Gibbons songs out of Billy Gibbons cut. So it's been a growing pattern. Sorry, these birds are like breeding up here, by the way, if that's too loud. Tell me. There's some endangered bird here and you can't get rid of their nest and you just have to listen to them make terrifying noises 24/7. Anyway, but yeah, just like I would say over the last 10 years, like everything, it was just a gradual build of like I got better at my craft and better at it and started to get some cuts by other artists and getting on other people's albums was pretty cool, but I didn't want to be just a songwriter. I wanted to be a performer because that's my favorite thing to do. So, but then when we got to do this rock thing is when I feel like it really got to shine through, because that's always what I wanted to do. And so, yeah, so pretty recently, I feel like it really started to shine.
I know there's an element out in Nashville too, as well, that does a lot of writing with laptops. I mean, I've heard stories where an artist I know went into a writing session to write music, pulled out his guitar, and no one has an instrument. They all have laptops, and one guy's the beat guy and all that kind of stuff. And how do you stay the course of doing it organically and authentic when there's all this technology in the room? Or did you not experience stuff like that?
I mean, we always had guitars, but I mean, anyone on planet Earth that's writing a song, unless they're 50 plus, is going to use a laptop to record that. But we always had guitars, and I was always a guitar guy. And I realized pretty recently, the last couple of years, that I would fall in love with a guitar line before I fell in love with the lyric, because I realized couldn't remember the words to a song, but I could remember how to play it on a guitar. So I realized that's what hooks me, right? And so we would always have guitars, and I would always come in with a riff that I wrote. For a song, 99.9% of the time for me starts with, when I write a song, it starts with a cool guitar lick. And I'm like, oh shit, let's write the words to follow this guitar line, you know? And even my Mostly Stone line, somebody played me something, my song, played me something on a piano. And I was like, he played me that intro, and I was like, that's a song. And I had this title in my head, and then we put guitar to it. So I've always been an instrument-based songwriter. I rarely sit down and write, lyrics before I have music. So
you're talking about writing a lick on a guitar. Do you hear the melody? Is it kind of similar to when someone's writing lyrics? I've talked to different songwriters who have a melody in their head and they're trying to find the lyrics to that melody. Is it the same when you're writing a riff? Do you hear the melody, or do you hear the tone? How does that all work for you when you're creating?
Yeah, I usually start with the riff, and then I'll start humming something over it. And then I pull my iPhone out and hit record. My voice memos, I sound like a crazy person because I'm just like, and it's interesting. One of the songs that actually started with lyrics was I was just singing this thing to a guitar called I Forgot to Die Today for like 2 years. And my band would laugh because they're like, what is this, like some weird suicide song? And then finally, when I tried to write it the 13th time and couldn't figure out what the song was about, I got texted by a special operations guy. I do a lot of military stuff. And he just said, hey, mate, hope you're well. And the minute I got that text, I was like, this song is about someone that runs into gunfire and is not afraid to die. And so that was one of those examples of I forgot to die today for years and could not write it. And then the minute I get a text from someone, all of a sudden it clicks in my head. That's what this song's about. So
as far as the process goes in songwriting, how did you, it's like anything, right? You practice your craft when you're playing guitar, piano, whatever instrument, singing. Where did you start from with songwriting? What was that curve like, that arc like for you?
It's interesting. There's a country music Hall of Fame songwriter that said something that hit me pretty hard. And he goes, you can take lessons and learn to play guitar. You can take lessons and learn to sing. He's like, I don't believe you can take lessons and learn to be a songwriter. I think that comes from another realm. Whether you believe that's God or a spiritual place, he's like, that stuff you cannot learn. He's like, that stuff you're either born with the ability to do so. You can hone it, but you can't just learn it. And this guy is in the Hall of Fame and Grammy award-winning songwriter. That's a Montana guy. And so at a young age, not having friends, I talked to myself a lot, and I hummed to myself a lot, and I'd sing to myself a lot, and I'd just be out there. A little kid with no buddies in the mountains of Montana would just talk all the time when I'm working. I still do it to this day. And again, people probably think I'm a crazy person. And then as I grew up and I got a guitar, I started putting my mumbling to a guitar and then started to learn how to form those words and write poetry around it. And I think it started at a very young age. I knew that I had some weird ability to, make things up. And gosh, yesterday I was on the river and I was making up songs as we went down the river about going down the river. And I was with about 30 people and they were like, where did you write that song? And I'm like, I just made it up. Like, dude's on a boat, blah, 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 blah. I just start singing and these people's jaws are dropped. Like, you just made that up right now. And I'm like, yeah, I've been doing that since I was like 5. And I'm especially good at dirty, inappropriate songs, but I can rhyme dirty words like nobody else.
Is it fair to say?
I'm not giving up.
I am selling the building.
The final season of FX's The Bear.
The restaurant is flooded.
Everything's either going to be okay.
No, stop.
Or not.
We are outgunned and we are outmanned, but we have each other.
FX's The Bear, the final season. All episodes now streaming on Disney+.
Hi, Ryan Reynolds here for Mint Mobile. Are you looking for a beach read this summer? May I suggest your big wireless bill? It's got suspense, mystery, a slightly flat, emotional arc, and a shocking twist where you realize you've been overpaying the entire time. Fortunately, though, Mint's story is better. Every plan, $15 a month, even unlimited. That's it. Happy ending, zero tears.
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow and network is busy. See terms.
This episode is brought to you by Chat GPT. Hey, it's Bill Simmons from the Bill Simmons Podcast. Have you guys heard about Chat GPT work? It's the new way to use Chat GPT for bigger multi-step projects. And when you need more than just answers, give Chat GPT work access to your apps and files, and it can create real work documents like spreadsheets, slides, and structured reports. Get started at chatgpt.com by selecting work mode, available on Plus and Pro plans.
Say that your upbringing, off the grid helped you develop a different perspective and how it correlates into songwriting where, you had a lot of time to be creative. You had a lot of time to yourself and you become aware of you as a person more so because you don't have distractions. You're kind of figuring out life on your own up in the mountains, and it shapes a perspective. It shapes how you think. Is it true to say that really does shape your individual approach to lyrics in your perspective when writing?
Yeah, 100%. And, a lot of that off the grid childhood was a dark time for me as well. I was in a very abusive home, and music in a lot of ways saved me because it was my only place to go to express myself because I couldn't express myself in the front room. So I'd go express myself in the bedroom with the guitar and just write down thoughts and feelings. And it was therapeutic to me. And not having friends until I got older, music was my friend. And so that definitely, as much as that was like a dark time in my life, I don't try to not let that weigh me down. And I try to continue to this day to write song lyrics about those feelings I had as a little kid, as a teenager. And I don't know if you heard Shut Me Out on my record. People love that. That's not out yet. It comes out in a month, but it sounds like a relationship song, right? Like someone that's going through a bad deal with their wife or significant other. Love me, hate me, break me, shut me out. It's a little bit complicated. I'm out here alone, sedated. Love me, hate me, break me. That for me was my childhood, about an abusive person that would love me and then get drunk and beat me up, and for me, that's childhood trauma that I'm able to express years later through a song. And, I'm past the point of giving up. That's all you gave me. I mean, I guess I never was enough, go on and blame me. It's my fault. Always is. Your poison, your last kiss. All those lyrics are little Timmy feeling that way, locked in the mountains, so the good, the bad, all of that got me where I am today. And it's weird to say, would I have changed anything? Yeah, I probably would have, because it was fucked up. But it made me the person I am today, and now I get to be the dad I never had, and write these songs that seem to connect with people. There's a lot of hurt people out there that message me when they hear The Devil You Know, which is another example of my childhood, and I even put some of those scenes in the music video that was really hard for me to do. But I was like, I want to show a scene from my bedroom of someone breaking the door in and smashing a guitar. And they're like, that's really dark, dude. And I'm like, I need to get it off my chest. But when that video came out and that song came out, people hear that, and whether they're suffering from addiction or abuse or trauma, they're messaging me. And that's therapeutic to them, and that's therapeutic to me.
In terms of staying connected with those memories and those thoughts, is it difficult for you you mentioned it being therapeutic, but even anything that's therapeutic, there is a challenge of getting through a certain point of number one, acceptance, and two, just being able to have a perspective about it. You write about these things. When you're reconnecting with these moments, is that a difficult phase of creating for you?
Yeah, I mean, I can get emotional at times when I write some of this stuff. I mean, the Day by Day song that closes out the album, Savage. I mean, I could, I think I teared up writing that, because I start the song with, I could be the one I never had or wind up dead like my old man. It's not easy shit to say, but and it talks about my struggles with alcohol, and it was not easy to write that, but I want to be held accountable by my fans and friends too. And I want them to know some of the shit I struggle with. And I'm kind of an open book when it comes to songwriting and storytelling. Yeah. So yeah, it is difficult to write some of that shit. And sometimes when I sing it, I get choked up. I mean, I've played that Day by Day song or Shut Me Out. And some of that's like emotions of, wow, there's people here clapping for me. And the other part is reliving that in my brain on stage. You know, there's times I even get a little, I haven't lost it on stage, like bawling my eyes out, but boy, a couple times, like especially the first few times I played some of these new songs off the new record, I went down memory lane in my head and it was rough.
Was that always going to be part of these songs with the album Savage? I mean, did you know, there's some songs you write that you're not maybe ready to put out, but you're opening yourself up and then you're starting to put these collective of songs together. Is this more or less like you being an open book about yourself?
100%. And I think Savage connects with that too. The honesty, my honesty is pretty savage on this record. You know, some of the things I've seen and done and been through, and, you know, I've been drugged through the rocks quite a few times, and, you know, so yeah, so Savage, the title fits the whole record really well. The music is pretty savage, the songwriting and some of the things I've gone through and I was able to express on this record were pretty fucking savage.
Has there ever been an experience that maybe you haven't touched yet, or you're afraid to kind of go down that road?
Plenty. Yeah, we'll get there.
Well, I mean, you've got your music as your therapist, right? And you'll know when you'll know when it's ready to write about that stuff.
Yeah, I went to a therapist once, and the guy just sat there and he's like, "No way, that's crazy." And I'm like, "Okay, I don't need someone to sit here and have their jaw dropped when they hear about my childhood experiences." So I'm going to stick to songwriting because it seems to work for me for now. Try and stay out of the bottle and stay on the guitar.
When you write about stuff like that and you reconnect with uncomfortable moments and uncomfortable memories, obviously time has passed. So when the moment first happens, you're really in it. You're in the thick of it, right? You're like there. But as time passed, you're no longer there, and you're able to kind of see that moment from a different set of eyes. How does it change your perspective on things? Does it change maybe, you know, a lot of times in situations like yourself, when you're younger, you end up blaming yourself. You end up doing all these things. But like as time goes by and you're more of an adult, and you've lived life, you kind of have a different perspective when you think back. Does that happen for you when you're writing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely, you know, those experiences shaped me. But yeah, I'd say so. I mean, I was just thinking the heaviest song on the album is Get You Some, and the opening line is "Poor white trash from a single wise survivor of the thought of suicide." And then I turn it to "Light in the dark, voice in the crowd, started out as a spark, now I'm a mushroom cloud." You know, like the juxtaposition of like, oh wow, this guy was going to die when he was a kid. Now he's like, F off, here we go. I'm taking the world by storm. You know, I wanted that. And it was a little arrogant of a lyric for me, but I wanted to start with just like really deprecating words and then turn it into very positive, almost arrogant lines. So
when you hear the finished product of the music, first, does it feel good to get this stuff off your chest and, you know, out of your mind? And two, when you do hear the finished product, are you happy the way you've reconciled with what you wrote about?
Yeah, I think so. And then I often ask myself too, am I going to continue writing about this? And I think that's a part of me. I think it's in me, and I don't think like writing this tell-all record and then I'm going to move on and write happy shit. I don't think that's going to happen. Like I can write happy shit, but I think that's always a part of me. It's trauma is something you have to deal with your whole life. I don't think it goes away, but there's that deal of like not letting it define you either. You know, like how do you spin my story in a way that can hopefully inspire others to get through whatever trauma they're going through, you know? So I do ask myself a lot, are you going to write about this forever? Are you going to be Mr. Depressing? And I'm like, no, but I think there's a way to work it into the songs that it's never going to leave me. It's here to stay. I go to sleep at night and still have nightmares about that shit. So I'm going to continue to write about it, you know, in different ways and forms, and might be positive here, might be downer here. You never know.
I think that's really important what you just said too, about not letting something like that define you. And I think we all deal with challenges in life. We all have things that happen that were unexpected, that are kind of a drag in a way. But I always have the mindset whenever I'm dealing with something, like, I will not let this define who I am. I will not let this, you got to find a way to overcome it. And a lot, people say that, and it's a lot easier said than done at times. I understand that. But I found that really interesting what you said about not having something define you with what you dealt with. And I think the other side of that is when people say, oh, all they write about is this, all they write about is that. But like you said, that's who you are. That's your life that you're writing about. That's what your creative experience is feeding off of. And I think that's always an interesting element whenever you're looking at music and ever listening to music, is you're hearing someone's perspective of what they've been through in their life.
Right. Right. And if I grew up in a great life in the suburbs and mom and dad were awesome and I still had them, dad around and good job, Timmy, I'd probably be a much different artist, and I might not be an artist. I might be a banker. I don't know. But yeah, that was something actually. I had some very, very horrific things happen about 10 years ago. And I was working in the studio with a producer by the name of Marshall Altman. And he was famous for the Mark Broussard home. And it's a great guy. And he, I was crying. I was fucked up. It was a bad deal. And he's like, you going to let this shit define you? Or you're going to figure your shit out and or are you going to define you? And that hit me like a semi full of rocks.
It sounds like with your life, you've had people in your life mentioning things like what you just said, the story about someone saying, is, are you going to let your life define you? It almost seems like at certain points in your life, there's people that say something or do something for you that keeps you going. Is that true?
Yeah, 100%, man. I've become a people person and always trying to please people and make them happy. But then I got some great people that keep me on the rails, keep me on the tracks, hold me accountable, check in on me, and this music life is crazy. And the friends that are the best that are the ones that understand that I'm not going to call you every day or text you every day, that I got to go out and work. And if I don't talk to you in 6 months, we can start up the conversation right where it ended, but then I have friends that will just keep an eye on me, check on me from time to time, send me a little thumbs up and see what you're doing out there, man. You're doing good in the world. So yeah, having a good support base and a good family. And I've got a wife that's super supportive of what I do and is in my corner, and my kids. And I got a teenage daughter now that's finally thinks dad is cool because I took her to Rockville to see the Foo Fighters and introduced her to Greta Van Fleet. So now I'm cool again this week.
Well, hey, I mean, you're setting the bar high for yourself, right?
Oh yeah. Her face when we're at the soundboard for the Foos, and she turns around and she has the biggest crush on the Greta Van Fleet boys. And she goes, Dad, there they are. And I grab her hand and just march her right over there. Cause I know one of the guys, I did some play with him. That's a funny story. Him and Charlie Sheen, we did a Red Dawn night where we reenacted Red Dawn. That's a whole other story. But one of the Greta Van Fleet guys was there. So I just walked my teenage daughter over there and I said, hey guys, this is my daughter. She's a huge fan, actually probably the biggest fan in the world. And her face just went beet red. And then she came over and she said, I want to marry him. I think it's the drummer she has the biggest crush on.
There you go. What does you talk about, not letting things define you? How do you define this record for you?
Just a chapter in my story. And a very forthcoming chapter. Everything I write, I mean, I've probably said this about every album, is kind of autobiographical. This one certainly is. It's ups and downs and all around, and yeah, I think it's very me. It's very honest. It's very honest.
And what's next for you? I mean, obviously the album comes out in, was it July?
Yeah, July 12th. What's next for me is got a couple shows in June. We're writing right now. I have a publishing deal, so I still write, have a required amount of songs I have to write. And so I've got my writer, producer coming up today that we're going to record up here till Sunday, right on the Big Hole River out there. Isn't that beautiful? And there's a big 800-pound grizzly out there right now because just a friendly reminder, everything is savage. So maybe I'll meet that grizzly bear. Hopefully, I go out like Legends of the Fall, Brad Pitt's ending. That's a good death for a guy like me. Remember that ending?
Yeah.
And the native guy's like, Tristan had a good death. It was what he wanted. He found the bear. I'm like, yeah, that'd be a great ending for Tim Montana someday. Anyway, everyone's gonna be like, that dude wants to get ate by a bear. But yeah, so July we start the Bush tour, and we're out with Bush, Jerry Cantrell, and Candlebox. And huge Bush fan, but Jerry Cantrell means more to me than a lot of artists out there, and especially Alice in Chains got me through some rough times in my life. And so I've been very fortunate and blessed to meet most of my heroes. And I feel like I've done my career almost backwards. I met my heroes before I started hitting, and from David Letterman to Billy Gibbons. But meeting Jerry is going to be really special. And getting to tour with him. I got 12 shows with him and the guys. And man, Bush and Alice in Chains and Candlebox. And I was in Hollywood last week doing some press. And I got to meet Kevin from Candlebox because, of course, he's just at the bar at the Sunset Marquee. I took him downstairs with Matt Binfield. All of this is crazy for a kid from a single wide trailer in Montana. I'm with Matt Binfield and Candlebox in Hollywood. I know, it's bizarre. I pinch myself too. But I played Kevin some of the new album, and he absolutely lost his mind. He's like, these melodies, holy shit, no one's doing this. This is rock and roll. Like, he heard Right Again, which is on the album, and it's kind of a ballady-ish, very melodic, honest song. And he listened to it, I'm not exaggerating, 11 times and just kept screaming and screaming. And I'm just like, man, I was pirating this guy's music on Napster for a long time.
You didn't tell him that, did you?
I tell all these tours I'm doing. I just finished the Stained and Seether tour, and I'm like, it's this resurgence of rock and roll is cool because I'm basically touring with my high school mix CD that I made from Napster. Like, all we're missing is Linkin Park, R.I.P. Chester, and I would have it completely locked.
That's amazing. Well, Tim, man, it's been a great chat. It's been a great time getting to know you. Love the music, love the album, and thanks again for doing this.
Yeah, thank you, Jay. I appreciate your time, man. Thank you so much.
Awesome. That is Tim Montana. All his links will be in the show notes, so go check those out when you're done listening, and go pre-order the new album too as well. Go check out where all the links will be in the show, like I said, so you can find out where to do all that stuff. But once again, I'm Jay Scott. This has been another episode of The Hook Rocks. Take care of each other, stay safe, and we will talk soon. Thank you.
Down to my last cigarette, but it still ain't hit me yet. Maybe I'm just scared to death, trying to drive right past the signs. Can't pretend that my blood ain't cold. There's no fire, but I smell smoke. Pounding like a heartbeat, building up inside me. Ain't no way to fight these animal instincts. Now when the damage, we gotta have it. We want it all. Living in towers, chasing the power like animals. Everything can go to hell. We can keep it for ourselves. Beating the habit, watching the madness. Everything is savage. When everything's said and done, sunsets, I'm the only one. Burning like a snake bite, riding from the inside, falling from a black sky, watching where the world dies.
I'm not giving up.
I am selling the building.
The final season of FX's The Bear.
The restaurant is flooded.
Everything's either going to be okay
Or not.
We are outgunned and we are outmanned, but we have each other.
FX's The Bear, the final season. All episodes now streaming on Disney+.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought it would be fun if we made $15 bills. But it turns out that's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.